Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
According to a news report, Nigeria owes New York City over $500,000 in unpaid parking tickets for its foreign diplomats. Nigeria apologized, however, and said they'll pay the fines right away if we send them our bank account number, our PIN number, and our mother's maiden name. Good morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith. And God bless America, followed by a patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance. Morning, morning. I love that song. I love that lady. Good morning. I'm Zeb Bell, Zeb at the Ranch, and our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers, including Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley, and our friends at Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. And get on the route service today. Call Kelly and the crew at 734-6969. Well, there she is. She's crocheting and knitting and baking and getting everything ready for the holidays. The real Mrs. Claus. Sometimes I think in the morning they should spell that M.S.C.L.A.W.S. Good morning.
That is so true. I don't knit, I don't crochet, I work on cars, but I do bake.
Well, listen, that's the most important one I was thinking about there.
Peach pie, baby, peach pie.
Oh, you will be a friend forever with peach pie.
I thought I would be a friend forever anyway, but okay.
Well, yeah, I didn't mean to put stipulations on it, but you will be, what do they say on all the text and everything, the BFF, best friend forever, or whatever it is?
BFF, best friend forever.
Yeah, well, you just elevated your status to permanent BFF.
Oh,
with
nice.
a peach pie.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Yeah.
Do we have a pledger?
Yes, I do believe we have Jolene on for the pledge and Michael Rogers on for the weather.
Very good, Jolene. There was a song named right after this lady. Good morning, Jolene. You're on the air.
Good morning. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excellent job, and thank you, and happy day, and Merry Christmas.
Thank you, you too.
All right, God bless you. Thank you. I forgot to hit our bells earlier. Yeah, Merry Christmas. Thank you very much. You better believe it. It's time for the weather, and I probably just really hurt his eardrums when I did that a minute ago. Cheney Flooring and Home Design brings us the weather. Carpet and flooring, kitchen construction, all your home decor and decorations for Christmas, whatever you need to make your house a home, and they can help you at Cheney Flooring and Home Design. My goodness, go down there and check out all the Christmas decorations. My heavens, they got them all. Look for the blue door at Cheney Flooring and Home Design. Kyle and Whitney Cheney, wonderful people serving you at 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. And right now, here he is, the best weatherman in the world, Michael Rogers Weather.
Got a nice day today, but don't buy the stock, okay? Just enjoy the nice day because it's going to start to rain about 11 o'clock tonight. It's going to continue all the way to Thursday night. You get a break on Friday, and you pick right back up where you left off on Saturday. The beauty about this weather system is while everybody else is getting snow, you're getting rain. 50 for the high today, 32 for the overnight low. Same temperatures pretty much throughout the remainder of the week. You're just going to be on the mild side of this frontal system. But you get the rain. Everybody else gets the snow. Enjoy the weather. It is the only weather you got.
There he is. MichaelRogersWeather.com, brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley, 678-6945. Look for their blue door. Really nice people. Hey, don't forget, this week, Thursday, Burley Livestock Sale Yard, 1100 Occidental Avenue in Burley, 678-9411. I'll repeat that number for consignment, 678-9411. Merv May, Cade Rogge, Lance Udy, all of them waiting to serve you the sale that works for you, starting at 10 a.m. every Thursday, Burley Livestock Sale Yard. You stop down this week on Thursday, and don't forget 678-9411 for your consignments for the sale on Thursday. I want to remind everybody that next Thursday, I had a call, and when I say next, I do not mean this week Thursday, okay? Whoop! Scratch it. Next Thursday, the 11th of December, we will be over at Valley White Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida, for our Christmas remote broadcast that we've had over there for the last couple of years. Then, and there were some questions about this, then we will be at, of course, Denny's Restaurant at 11:30, the same day, for a lunch bunch. We're going to combine both on the same day. And at about 3 o'clock that afternoon, Deanna and I are going to crash into the geezer chairs. Anyway, that's next Thursday. Don't miss it. Hey, by the way, too, I want to say Darrell's Cleaners. I got a cough drop in my mouth and I almost choked on it. Darrell's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley, with Kevin and Cindy and the crew. Oh, they really can help you clean things. Drapes, tablecloths. My goodness, you've got all the family coming for Christmas. Better get them cleaned. And also, they've got prepaid gift cards. So those would be great stocking stuffers for your family. Darrell's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley, where dry cleaning prolongs the life of your clothes and makes you look really good. Darrell's Cleaners in Burley, the best. Hey, by the way, too, talking about the best, SafeLink Internet, 677-8000. Write that number down, 677-8000. And for the best in Idaho's #1 choice for wireless internet, and that is SafeLink Internet Services. 17 years and counting. All you have to do to get on the program like we are, I love SafeLink Internet. Very dependable. 677-8000. You call them and tell them Zeb sent you. All right, calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I would appreciate your calls. I'm going to start things off this morning on a subject that I want your input. Here is basically my question of the day. We do this quite frequently on the show, the question of the day. And yeah, I'm looking for people to voice their opinion. But I think in this case, boy, I just really want to hear how we can clean this mess up. And the mess meaning Ferguson, Missouri, and the residual effects of what's happening because of Ferguson, Missouri, all across the United States. The question is, if Policeman Wilson did what he was supposed to do, followed the protocol, and according to the grand jury he did, then why yesterday? Here's the most important part of the question I want you to respond to. Why yesterday did Obama basically denigrate all police forces by saying police need retraining and better training? Why would the President of the United States make inferences that police should be better if Policeman Wilson was justified in what happened? I want an answer to that. Why? If Policeman Wilson followed the protocol, did what he was supposed to, the grand jury, a jury of his peers, they looked at the evidence for 3 months, and they said he was not to be indicted for any wrongdoing. Then why is there a continual effort by this president to treat the young man, Michael Brown, as if he is some kind of a race martyr. This young man was a punk. This young man was a felon. This young man was a criminal. And maybe the president should have addressed the cameras and said, families, communities, all of us should try to do better to make sure this situation doesn't happen again. But no, he went after the police. He went after the police. Your thoughts? Why? Why do the police need more retraining and better training? Why do the police have to start wearing cameras to justify their actions all the times and not the bad guys? Why? Give me a call. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Don't let me down, please. Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. They've got the best of air filters for your furnace. Don't get those cheap ones that last a couple of days and then your furnace goes, oh, brother, change the filter, will ya? Well, the furnace will work very efficiently for you if you'll take care of it with the quality air filters from Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. They're open 7:30 to 5:30 Monday through Friday, where you always will have warm winters and cool summers with Ramsey Heating and Electric. Caller, I'll be right there. Stand by. Also, our thanks go out to Valley White Home and Ranch, Eric and Mandy and all the folks over there. By golly, Sean, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. And we are going to have a huge, that means really big, Christmas remote broadcast over there next Thursday, the 11th of December. And you stop in for all your warm clothes, your coats, hats, gloves, whatever, all your feed needs, everything at Valley White Home and Ranch. They're waiting to serve you at 910 South Oneida in Rupert. Come on by. It's going to be a fun time next week. Valley White Home and Ranch. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, Zeb, I think a lot of that stems back to this guy's parents. You know, I mean, he didn't live with either one of them. He was living with his grandma. That's the problem. The parents aren't doing their job and teaching these kids to have some respect for the police and our country and everything else.
I can barely hear you, caller. Maybe I don't know if we can turn you up or not, but I think I heard everything that you said about the families being more responsible. Is that correct?
Yeah, I did.
I agree with you. In this particular case, I don't think there was any family to look up to. Because you're coming in so weak, I appreciate your call. God bless you, man. I'll talk to you over the air. Thank you so much. That caller is 100% right. When I heard about the stepfather and saw the stepfather jumping up on a car and inciting everybody to burn Ferguson down, and that's not the words he used, but I will not use his profanity on my program, that's no leadership whatsoever. None. The boy's mother, not exactly a poster child to be looked up to with her past rap sheet and her run-ins with the law. Why is it that we have to mollycoddle the people that are bad people in the society because we're afraid they might get upset? We're afraid they might loot, they might burn, and they might shoot. This is what's happening in the inner city. And of all people, caller, I'll be right there, all people yesterday that spoke out and really condemned what's going on in Ferguson and the president was Charles Barkley, former outstanding basketball player. I don't always agree with Charles, but he said, wait a minute. Get off the cops' back. They've got a job to do, and without them, the inner cities would turn into the wild, wild west. Caller, I'll be right there. Please stand by. I'll be right there, I promise. Gary Shoresman, well-known area author. Listen, I'm telling you, if you're looking for that special Christmas gift, Gary has the books that he has written over the years, Arid Acres, 3rd edition, A History of Comaima and Minidoka Homesteaders, The Way We Were, Stringtown, Riverton, Water Stop on the OSL Railroad. This man knows history. Nobody knows history like Gary. And these would be great, great gifts. He's got them on sale at the bookstore on the square in Rupert and the Minidoka County Museum, and I urge you to get these fantastic books for Christmas. And these will be keepsakes for generations to come. Gary Shoresman and his excellent writings at the bookstore in Rupert and the Minidoka County Museum. Also, real fast caller, I'm a-coming, I promise. Barry Equipment and Rental, Eli and Nick and the whole crew serving you. I'm telling you, they got 3 locations: Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls, South Lincoln and Jerome, 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. Now, when you're talking equipment to get the job done, they have the equipment to get the job done right. Whether it's the Coyote tractors, Bobcat loaders, Big Doosan loaders, or whatever, it's all there at Barry Equipment and Rental, and they are helpful too. You stop in or give them a call, and that's Barry Equipment and Rental, Twin Falls, Jerome, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Zeb.
Yes, sir.
Now, here's a hood that went to St. Hood in just a few seconds. Now, if these 25 stores that were burned down had security cameras in it, I'll bet you the films on those security cameras would have shown exactly the damage that kid had done to the owners in those 25 stores. I think that's one thing the investigators overlooked.
The investigation and the publicity, and quite frankly, the media of ABC, NBC, CBS, etc., has honestly, I think, turned this young man, Michael Brown, into a martyr for race relations, when in essence, this kid was nothing more, and I'm going to say it, other people are too afraid and cowardly, but I'm going to say it, he was a punk felon. He was a great, big, oversized young man that threw his weight and size around to get what he wanted and take what he wanted. Why can't the media portray him as what he was?
Well, the media is under control of Barack Obama and Al Sharpton and the Muslim Brotherhood. That's what the problem is.
Well, yeah, but Tony, really, when you come right down to it, you, growing up, probably had whites in your neighborhood that were big bullies and just absolutely were destined for a life ridden with crime. Well, this kid is no different. Color really doesn't come into it. It's the way you're raised, the way you have respect for society, the way you have respect for the police, the way you have respect for your fellow man, and this kid was a criminal.
Well, in my neighborhood, the police were in control of everything. And that's one reason why we had basically a low crime rate there. Yeah. And if the police weren't heavy-handed like they were, a lot of us young punks would have caused a lot more trouble.
Okay, you just kind of touched on it. I believe that what you just said, you were afraid to cause trouble out of a word, a 7-letter word called respect. Would you agree for that?
Oh, we had respect for the police, yeah, because if you didn't, you'd get a whipping out in the street, and if I went home and complained to my father that the police hit me, he'd say, what for? Yeah. If I told him, I'd get another beating.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something. At the end of my program every day, I always say the way things were, the way things ought to be, and I'll just come right out and say it. If Michael Brown had been subject to more punishment and subject to more parental guidance, maybe he wouldn't have been a punk thug that would have gone and robbed and taken what he wanted to, and he wouldn't have ended up in the status that he did.
Well, if the police weren't under such controls today like they are, we'd have less crime throughout this country.
I agree. Tony, always good to hear from you. Thank you, man.
Okay, bud.
God bless you. Thanks. I want to talk about a related subject, and this is spooky. In just a minute. Caller, don't you dare go away. You're up next. Hold on. Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley, the home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch, Thomas and Terry, the whole crew. Oh, they're looking forward to our big Christmas party on the 11th at 11:30 right there at Denny's Restaurant. And they also have a brand new location in Twin Falls on Pole Line Road. And I mean, people are just flocking in there because they know it's great food. They know it's great service. They know they're going to enjoy it. Well, I'll tell you, you will too. Stop in today to Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley. And by the way, this Thursday, be tuned in because we're going to be asking the Denny's question of the day. And if you answer the right question with the right answer, you will build your own Grand Slam breakfast at Denny's, either location, Twin Falls or Burley, absolutely free. Be sure and be listening. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, young man.
I like that. Thank you.
Got a question for you. Is anybody above the law?
Well, I don't know how to answer that. There are some that are above the law if the law is illegal and the law does not represent justice. I would answer it that way. But most all of us that live in a civilized society that have had our lawmakers, legislators, senators, and congressmen pass the laws that are for a civil society, then your answer is no. Nobody is above the law, including Barack Obama.
Well, I personally think that Barack Obama, Eric Holder, Valerie Jarrett, and Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson should all be arrested for inciting a riot.
I can't argue that. I can't argue that. I am so sick and tired of this race issue being, like you said, inciting a riot. And yesterday with Al Sharpton, and I listened and I wrote down most of the verbiage of his speeches that he gave at the churches this past weekend, saying, well, this is just one little fracas, and we haven't lost the war, and we're going to come back, and we're going to demand justice. What justice, Dal? What justice is there to demand when the young man, was in the wrong? The young man was a felon and a criminal. What justice is not being received?
Well, that's a big question. So I'll let you go. Oh, one other thing.
Yes, sir.
My wife says she would call you, but you wouldn't like what she had to say.
Oh, my goodness. Is she mad at me?
No.
Oh.
Not mad at you. She says you would not like what she had to say.
Well, all I can say is that you're a brave man, Dal. But don't turn your back.
Have a good one.
God bless you. Thank you much. I love those folks. They are some of the sweetest people. Calls welcome 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Talking about good people before we go to our break at the bottom of the hour. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, Nick Greenwell, physical therapist and the owner of Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, along with all of his staff. They know how to get you feeling better. They know how to help you get back to being you. They know all the exercises. They know how to work with you and absolutely get those muscles stimulated and your legs and your arms. I'm so impressed with these people. These are people that grew up here. You know them. They really studied hard to get all the ability and knowledge to help you. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, 678-1191. Caller, I'm going to ask your patience. Please, if you'll just hang on a second, because I've got to get this in. The Capital Press Ag Minute is coming up now. And it's brought to you by Pacific Steel and Recycling, 320 West Main in Burley. And if you'll bring in 2 canned or non-perishable food items, you'll get $10 per ton more for scrap iron, 5-cent bonus on aluminum. Please, these are people helping the community. Pacific Steel and Recycling. Here now, the Capital Press Ag Minute.
The Capital Press Ag Minute is brought to you by OnlyAg.com.
Idaho could have 2 new American Viticulture Area designations at this time next year. An AVA is a specific wine grape growing region that is federally designated because it contains growing conditions, boundaries, and history. Idaho wine industry representatives say the state's first AVA, the Snake River Valley AVA, established in 2007, was a catalyst behind the rapid growth that has occurred in the state's wine industry since then. Wineries in north central Idaho have petitioned the ATTTB to create Lewis and Clark Valley AVA, which includes a 40-mile-long strip of canyons with the cities of Lewiston and Clarkton in the middle. A second proposal seeks to create an AVA in the foothills north of Eagle, Idaho.
To receive instant, exclusive, unlimited access to the West Agricultural News Source, register your account today at CapitalPress.com.
Oh, thank you very much. Brought to you by our dear friends at Pacific Steel and Recycling, 320 West Main in Burley. Holiday helping hands. Yes, they are. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. it's really critical that people be aware in this short session of Congress that we defund, or call our congressman, I just got through doing that, to defund amnesty, this Obamacare amnesty situation for illegal aliens. They're not migrants, they're illegal aliens. And so please get hold of Simpson's office. He's on that appropriations committee, and to just defund it, because that's the only way we're going to stop it.
I agree. We're going to be talking about that subject a little later on this morning, but I totally agree. The only way we're going to whoop this thing is to defund it, get rid of the money for it, and stick our nose out and our chin out at Obama and say, no, enough is enough. And it's going to end up costing this country literally billions and billions of dollars that we don't have right now. Adrian, I thank you for your call.
Not only that, the job situation, but there's a phony deal out. Representative Yoho, I think is the name, from Florida, has got some kind of bill out there, and that's supposedly kind of a compromise. Well, actually, what it will do is allow full funding, and it's a phony deal. So people need to be alert to that.
All right.
The thing needs to stop, because, and also we need to call him and impeach this guy. I mean, I'll send you a list that was sent to me last night. It's unbelievable, the lies with this president and the unconstitutional. You know, Madison said that.
All right, whoa, Adrian, I don't have time to go into all that this morning, but right now I will say that we need to let Simpson and Labrador and Crapo, Risch, we need to let them all know no funding for this man anymore. No funding for his amnesty program. I totally agree with you. Thank you for your call. I got to get going. Thanks. Appreciate it. I just can't have a lot of rambling this morning. I'm running late, but I'll take some more calls. Give me a jingle, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I want to get this in, and we were on the subject of the police. And this is very, very important. Eric Holder, the Attorney General, yesterday set guidelines on profiling. Now listen very carefully, audience. I want you to call in on this. Eric Holder, the Attorney General, set guidelines on profiling by the federal government. He said he is going to end forever racial profiling of any kind. No, whoops, stop the bus, hit the brake. How do you do that? How do you do that? Stop forever racial profiling of any kind. Now, here, I'll throw this at you. If two black guys rob a bank, how do you not look for two black guys? Whether it's two Hispanics, two Caucasians, two black guys, doesn't make any difference. You have to profile to get the APB out to all the news agencies and the police of various areas to be on the lookout for two black guys. If you said two guys, what good is it going to do? The federal government should leave the police work to the local police agencies. And I am so afraid, and I think a lot of people would agree with me on this, that with Eric Holder and Barack Obama in the last 2 years of a not lame duck but dead duck presidency, they will do everything they can to federalize and militarize the police forces. And all the police, including ours locally, should have the guts to stand up like Milwaukee County Sheriff Clark did yesterday. And he basically told President Obama and Attorney General Holder to get lost, be quiet, and leave the police work to the professionals. Amen. But my question is to you, honestly, audience, help me on this. How do you stop racial profiling for criminals? Explain that to me. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Hey, don't forget Quality's Electronics. Oh, my goodness, crazy low prices like a Samsung 32-inch LED for $199. Oh my! A 46-inch smart TV, now only $429. All of these savings and so many more for your Christmas shopping at Quality's Electronics. Don't miss out on these great sales. Don't miss out on these super low prices. Don't miss out on getting the best for your entertainment at home. Quality's Electronics, 1730 Kimberly Road in Twin Falls. Don't miss out. Stop in and see them today. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Real quick, caller, I'm coming. Don't forget Sophie's Chatterbox, 530 East Street on the Square in Rupert. What a bakery. What a bakery. Wedding cakes, cookie bars, homemade bread, delicious cinnamon rolls, great, big, thick, juicy cinnamon rolls. Oh, my. You just call and order what you need, 436-0354. Sophie's Chatterbox on the Square in Rupert. Delicious. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Ted.
Yes, sir.
You know, this whole racial thing is being fired up by people like Sharpton and that sort of thing. Let's take Idaho, for instance. There's not a great deal of black people in Idaho. And so we here in Idaho, we don't have racial feelings or anything else. These are just people. Their skin is a different color, but we treat them like human beings, just like the Spanish people. And that's the way it should be. But it seems to me like that when the black people can get in a group, like the Black Panthers and people like that, they just lead this country with hatred. It's just unreal how much they hate the white people.
Yeah, but Keith, let me ask you this real quick, and I got a call stacked up, and I'm going to have to get everybody a fair chance. How do you not racial profile when you're investigating a crime or something happens, a bank robbery, anything? How do you not racial profile?
Well, how can you help it if there's two black guys that hold up a bank?
Or two Hispanics or two Caucasians. It doesn't make any difference.
They're bad people.
Yeah, but you have to lay out the statistics. This political correctness of trying to be so careful about not hurting anybody's feelings is absolutely asinine and stupid.
Yeah, but when you have the facts like they did in Ferguson, that district attorney or whatever it was,
prosecuting attorney,
yeah, you know, he listened to the people. He listened to the witnesses and everything, no matter what color they were.
I agree.
Then the grand jury decided that this policeman acted in a manner that was becoming of his position.
I agree. Keith, always good to hear from you. I got to get the other folks on. Appreciate it much. Thank you. God bless. Have a great day. Thank you. Hey, caller, I'm going to ask your patience. We want to be sure and get our Merry Christmas wishes in right now from AMI. Yes, 719 Overland and Burley. The good folks at AMI. Look for the big 28-foot wrench over the door. Go nuts over their bolts. I love that. Hey, Alan, Corey, Eric, Rob, and the rest of the crew wish you a very Merry Christmas from AMI. Along with Pro Paint, Barbara and the crew. Hello, Barbara. How are you? Pro Paint 1116 Overland Avenue in Burley. Oh, the best stains, best paint, best advice. Oh, yes. You can get excited for fixing your house up for the holidays just by going into Pro Paint and see Barbara, and they wish you a very Merry Christmas. Along with my dear friend Joe Taylor, 1826 Overland in Burley with Carrie and Adams Realty. Buying or selling real estate, one call does it all, and he is the best. Joe Taylor, honest and hardworking, and he wishes you a very Merry Christmas. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, Zeb. You know, I feel that this whole problem is caused by our president and Eric Holder feeding the public information that's not accurate.
Okay.
You never hear them say anything good about our police departments anywhere. And they've come down on them in the past several times. And I think they're behind everything that's happened. You know, the boy that committed the crime was a thug, and he did what he did. The grand jury's decided that. And, you know, by rule of law, the grand jury was who should have made the decision whether he was, you know, the policeman was guilty or not guilty. Mm-hmm. And when they did it, they don't go by the rule of law. They just want hatred. And I think they're just feeding it. Al Sharpton's the worst race baiter there is. He shouldn't even be able to get up in front of the public and talk with his record.
Well,
as far as profiling, I haven't seen Eric Holder do one thing I agreed with.
Well,
I just absolutely think if he could tear down our police departments and make it impossible for them to do their job, he would do it in a second.
Jerry, I appreciate your call. And
I want to be one other thing here.
Yes, sir.
Before you cut me off, I want to wish you and all your audience a Merry Christmas, and may the Lord bless you all.
Oh, Jerry, you're such a great guy. I appreciate it, and God bless you and your family. Thank you for your remarks this morning. Have a great day. Thank you.
You bet. Bye.
Nice man right there. You know, but I got to go back to this because it's just bugging me. How do you possibly investigate a crime without racial profiling? How do you possibly put out an APB without profiling? How? What are you going to do? Are you going to come out with something as vanilla as attention all policemen, attention all cars, be on the lookout for a silver Ford pickup with 2 men driving? Well, first of all, that probably narrowed it down to, at least in that respective area, 1 million, if it's like Milwaukee, Chicago, New York, whatever. And if you can't racial profile and say specifically what they look like and who they are, how are you ever going to get them? Are you going to have a dragnet and a police stoppage on the roadways, and every single person that's driving a silver pickup with 2 guys in the cab, they're going to get pulled over, whether they're Hispanic, whether they're Caucasian, whether they're this, whether they're that? Eric Holder is absolutely, he's setting guidelines that can never be fulfilled for the safety of society. He's a joke, but nobody's laughing. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I just don't understand why we're headed in the direction we're headed, and I certainly don't understand why we're letting it happen. You know, there's been absolutely a rash of crime here in this area with the very, very serious, dangerous, and very scary robberies of pharmacies. Well, they've got to come up with some ideas. And if all of a sudden they didn't have profiling and they couldn't say what the suspect looked like or what race he was, my goodness, it'll never get solved, and nobody will be safe. We're going to do a weather forecast. It only takes 60 seconds. Caller, you stay right there. Don't go away. Mad River Laser is sponsoring our weather with Michael Rogers Weather, and she can make custom-made wooden Christmas ornaments. She's made some for us, and they are beautiful. Absolutely amazing. And all your engraving on mugs and T-shirts and hoodies and pins and coats and caps. My goodness, just get over and stop into her store. Brand new location, 502 East Street in Rupert. Mad River Laser. Wonderful business. Here's Michael Rogers Weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers is there, but the rain's the only day where we're not going to see any rain. It takes place today, tonight. We have weather action all the way through the weekend. So you got a nice day today, 57 for the high. And the rain will start after midnight. No, not 11 o'clock tonight. Look for the overnight low about 32, and showers will continue into tomorrow morning. Have yourself a great day. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. Brought to you by Mad River Laser, 502 East Street in Rupert. Caller, thank you for your patience. Good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, Zeb. So this is slightly off subject, but I think it applies to, you know, the Ferguson bill and all sorts of stuff. And I want to hear your take on it, because you're a radio man and you got a job to do and you got to get ratings and stuff. But your friend called and talked about how, you know, Obama and Eric Holder feeding the propaganda and whatnot. It doesn't matter really who's feeding it, as long as we keep eating it up and buying it, and keep our attention on those things as opposed to what's going on around us immediately and in our community. How are we ever going to solve the problems? You know what I mean?
Well, let me ask you.
Both ways, how it's just as much us eating it up as it is them feeding it, and choosing to do something different about what they're doing,
Well, let me ask you a question so I make sure I understand your point and be very definitive on this. What are you talking about? We're eating it up and we're not solving problems. What are you saying? I mean, it sounds like you...
So I think we spend a lot of time, in front of our TVs and on the radio listening to all these problems and going, but... you and I, we can talk about it, but what are we going to do about what's going on in Ferguson at the end of the day? The only place we can really affect is us here immediately. So I just kind of want to know your take on that.
Well, stay on the line. Stay on the line just for a minute with me. Stay right there. Don't hang up.
Yeah.
I think by talking about it, whether we're in southern Idaho, whether we're in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, or Jacksonville, Florida, it doesn't make any difference. People have to form opinions and I think form coalitions of power and let their elected officials know what they think about these guidelines on profiling, what they think about race wars and burning and looting. And everybody come together with their own thoughts through the elected officials so that these problems don't elongate over to other areas like they already have started in Los Angeles, Chicago, and other areas. But when you talk about racial profiling, answer this. If we're not aware and cognizant that the Attorney General of the United States wants to, quote, end all racial profiling of any kind, my goodness, sir, how can any crime ever be settled if you don't racial profile?
Well, certainly with very great difficulty, I would think.
Yeah, there you go.
So, I got one more question for you. You don't have to talk about this, and then I'll get off your phone here. But I was, do you know Ben Swan? He's a journalist, pretty famous journalist,
yes.
and whatever. He tries to do a lot of, straightforward stuff. And I saw a couple things where he had talked about lots of the protection in Ferguson was specifically for government buildings, and lots of these private stores and owners were totally ignored during the rioting by the police. And I was wondering if you had heard about that and what your take is.
I had, and I'll tell you something. I had two people from back in that area call me, and this was last week on Friday, I think, and they both intimated the same thing that you had mentioned, and I'm checking into that. But thank you very much for your call. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Thank you. Good call right there. Nice person. Caller, stand by. I'll be right there. Don't forget Redder's Showcase at 2611 Overland in Burley. You know what? Do you know what? This Friday and Saturday, they're going to have all kinds of specials in the store. You don't want to miss it. At Redder's Showcase, it is going to be a happening. And to sweeten the deal, you can go in there to Redder's Showcase and take a candy cane off the tree and get an additional discount of possibly $20 to $100 if you have a purchase of over $399. You can save a lot of money. Just look at that magical candy cane. Oh, my. Redder's Showcase, 2611 Overland in Burley with Amana and Whirlpool and Maytag appliances. You better stop in. Redder's Showcase in Burley. Yep, wishing you a Merry Christmas. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb.
Yes, sir.
I just tuned in. This profiling, why do you take a mugshot?
Well, you know what, Dwayne? That might be a thing of the past from now on.
They can't do that. That's why they take mugshots.
Yeah.
So that you can get a profile on them. And if you can't get a profile on them, you cannot take a mugshot.
Yeah, but Dwayne, let me interrupt you, and you know this is true. There have been many instances in the last couple of years in our local newspapers to where there has been, whether it's a Hispanic, whether it's Caucasian, whether it's a black person, doesn't make any difference. They'll just give the name, and they never gave the race. And I think that is absolutely an affront to the public that should be on the lookout for protecting themselves when they will not mention the race.
Well, this is getting so ridiculous. And what really bothers me, they will get away with it.
Yeah.
But it's just irritating that these politicians will let them do it, and then after they get in office, they won't do. How many laws have they actually just got rid? When I lived in Texas, it was a known fact that if you were found carrying a wire cutters in your pocket, and I think it's still in effect, if you were carrying a wire cutters in your pocket, you could be arrested for it.
Really?
You know, back from the old Western days.
Yeah.
And also, if you were to walk in and see your wife in bed with another man, you could kill them both. That's a Texas law, and it's still on the book.
Texas probably has, I think, and I've said for a long time, some of the most bold-faced, this is the way it is, if you don't like it, get out of Texas laws, and I wish the United States would adopt a lot of their principles.
Well, I think they need to, what they need to do, my point was to, when these Republicans get in office, they need to go through some of these laws that Obama's made and past presidents without, going through the proper channels, these executive orders, and they need to just get rid of the whole bunch. But the Republicans won't do it because then those people might get mad.
Yeah. Dwayne, answer one short question for me, really, and you're a sharp guy. You know the answer to this question. What is going to happen and who will benefit by taking away racial profiling from our police?
The criminals.
Bingo. And that creates more of a lawless society and more of a chaotic society, and that, I think, is what this country's aiming at.
But, if you lose a kid out there in some forest or out, anywhere in a park.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Out over the radio.
Yeah.
That child is lost. What are you going to do? We got a kid lost. He's black. That's helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Profiling isn't just for the crooked, but that's who's making laws.
I promise you on this program, I promise you and everybody listening that if I know the facts and I know what they're looking for and who they're looking for, and I know what race or ethnicity, I'm going to put it on the program, and I'm not going to back up for racial profiling. Dwayne, I got to get a commercial in. God bless you, man. Thanks. Thank you. This is ridiculous. We are handcuffing our society. We're handcuffing our police. But for the Attorney General to get up there at a podium yesterday and say that he is going to forever end racial profiling of any kind, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, Eric, old boy, chances are it's a duck. Don't get stuck in the side of the road and wish that you had traction tires on your vehicle, or wish that you had your tire chains, or wish that you had a battery that was going to start the engine. You stop into any one of the 7 locations for your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Yep, they got everything you need. All the traction tires, all the pin for studs tires, they got the tire chains. The best in brake service. Absolutely the best in brake service. And of course, course, I talked about batteries a minute ago. Got them all. Got them all for you to make sure you're going to start that four-wheeled wonder. And, of course, front-end alignment, shocks and struts, all there. All 7 locations with Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family over in Paul, John on Pole Line in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley. The best, your Magic Valley, Les Schwab Tire Centers. I got time for one more call. One more call. Give me a jingle, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. By the way, real quick, there is a group. This will get Gina. Gina, jump on here real quick. I got a story for you. Are you there?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, the enthusiasm is just bubbling this morning. I love this girl. Did you hear there is a no-gender group from Australia that's trying to change all the Christmas presents?
What? A non-gender group.
A non-gender group from Australia, and they are pushing for parents all over the world not to give your little boy a G.I. Joe, not to give your little girl a doll, but give them non-gender gifts like radios and, maybe little toy ovens.
I can see a radio.
I can too. But what is the big deal about not letting boys play with boys' toys and girls play with girls' toys?
I see nothing wrong with that because, it helps solidify, their gender. But, I'm going to have to do some reading on this one because...
It's going to blow your mind, but these people want a non-gender society. They want a unisex society. They want bathrooms for everybody. I'm telling you, I'm not making this up. You know I'm not. It's getting crazy out there.
It is getting crazy out there, and you know what? I want my little boy to know that he's a little boy. My daughter very much knows that she is a girl. She's a woman, and so there's no confusion as to what kind of gender they are. It's always been that way. I don't see why people want to, buck the trend unless they just want to be different because, we all need to use the same bathroom.
No, don't go there, please.
I know, it's dumb.
I had an experience. I had an experience over in Spain when I was over there, and it left me with a mind that is warped.
Did you recover? Did you survive?
It took me a long time to recover. I mean, when you're walking in, how do I say this tactfully? When you're walking into the men's room that you think is a men's room, but it's not, it's in everybody's room, and you're ready to use the facilities, and out next to you comes a lady in a miniskirt, it really dampens your day, let me tell you.
It sounds like it would.
Yeah. I got to run to the news. In other words, I'll be back in just a few minutes. What is the name of that?
I don't know.
I love that.
Bumper music?
I just love the way you came out of the news with that. And some of the great songs that you play as kind of bumper music, I really appreciate. Well, that is beautiful, whatever that piece is called.
Well, we have moved into the holiday season, so you get holiday-themed bumpers.
Well, thank you, Mrs. Claus.
Oh, you're welcome, Mr. Claus.
I appreciate it. That was nice, Gina. Thank you very, very much. Zeb at the Ranch, I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, and, of course, all 7 locations. And we also thank some of our great advertisers, including Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley, and our friends at Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
Oh, always at your disposal is correct. These folks are there to get your garbage, and it's gone. It's out of there. Absolutely. Western Waste Services, 734-6969. Call them, get on the route service, and get rid of the garbage. And don't forget, too, they've got dumpsters in various sizes. Put one in your garage, clean it up. That's what I got to do. Out in the shop or whatever, the basement, and then when it's filled, call them, and they'll come and get it. They are always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, 734-6969. Wonderful people. When you talk about wonderful people, I want to mention our dear friends, and that's, of course, what's happening with Joel Heward at Hanson Mortuary. When there is the passing of a loved one, I mean, it's a very, very traumatic time for the rest of the family to get everything done and dot all the I's and cross all the T's, and believe me, it's highly emotional time. Please call Hanson Mortuary at 436-5636 because they always treat you and your family with the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. Please call Joel Heward, Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. That number, 436-5636. Again, 436-5636. Oh, by the way, every morning we start the show off with the weather forecast with Michael Rogers Weather, brought to you by our friends at Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. Don't forget Kyle and Whitney Cheney. They've got everything, whatever you need to make your house a home, and carpet and flooring, kitchen construction, home decor, all the Christmas decorations, everything at Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley in Burley. I get a chance right now to visit with a very, very nice man that's a representative for the state of Idaho, and I have a lot of respect for his opinion. I have a lot of respect for him as a person, and that's Representative Fred Wood. Good morning, Fred. How are you?
Good morning, Seb. How are you?
Well, I'm concerned. Do you anticipate that the state of Idaho might be forced into becoming a state with a whole bunch of Cheech and Chongs driving around their cars high on marijuana?
No. Zeb, as I talked to you very briefly when you chatted with me about being on the program, I don't see any of that whatsoever. Now, before we get started into this conversation, let me take just 1 minute because I think there's a couple of definitions that need to be brought up, and so that you and I and all of the listeners understand exactly what we're talking about. The first definition is recreational marijuana. Everybody knows what that is. Those are just drugs that people want. There's the term medicinal marijuana, which is just an excuse for having recreational marijuana.
Absolutely.
Okay, so anytime you hear those two categories, the answer, at least in my mind, is no, and we can have a further discussion. There is one legitimate thing that I think we needed to cover, and I'll take 1 minute. The cannabis plant is one of the most genetically complex plants in the world, and the cannabis plant produces more than 400 distinct chemical compounds. And, of course, the one that everybody, all of the potheads and all of that kind of stuff want is the cannabis plant that has a lot of tetrahydrocannabinol, or THC, with it. However, there is a compound called cannabidiol, which in research studies has had significant effect in reducing epilepsy and in reducing seizure activity in humans. And as a matter of fact, it's used in experimental studies now to control severe forms of epilepsy such as Dravet syndrome, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to refer to that as scientifically researched hemp, because it actually comes from the hemp form of cannabis, which has no THC or such small amounts of THC that you can barely measure them. So what we don't want to do when we start talking about the cannabis plant and marijuana.
Right.
We don't want to delve into honest, legitimate research for healthcare purposes that is going to actually contribute a benefit to the citizens that might be researched by a legitimate pharmaceutical company, regulated by the FDA, and then brought to market in the form of a liquid or a pill or an injection that actually can benefit. So we'll call that scientific researched hemp for the listeners to make sure that that's a distinct category. As a matter of fact, there's a bill in Congress now to legitimize that and authorize that, and the Utah legislature passed that exact legislation last year. Mm-hmm. Okay, go ahead.
Now, Fred, why? I look at this thing with cynicism to the point where I'm a little wary and weary of people always trying to destroy a fabric of a civilized society and make it anything goes, no laws, it's cool, man, let's just lay in the park and smoke all day attitude. I've talked to many people from Colorado, many people from the Denver area, Frosty Woolridge on my program every week, Doug Johnson on my program every week. And what happened in the state of Colorado was absolutely devastating, with the derelicts and the absolute mind-blowing, who cares, anything goes, no job attitude. I don't want to see that come to Idaho, but our neighbors to the west of us, Oregon and Washington, have already passed it. Are you not afraid at all that this might become a major push in Idaho?
Well, I've never heard of a single legislator that would even entertain the thought of recreational marijuana or medicinal marijuana, given our definitions that I said above,
right,
in the state of Idaho. I mean, the bill has been brought a couple of times by legislators that are no longer in the legislature. I can tell you that, from my perspective, the answer is no, and it's not going to go anywhere. And I don't know of a legislator that has a different opinion than that.
All right, we've got a caller with a question. Go ahead, caller, please, quickly.
Well, I think it's not really a question. It's more I need to assert this cannabis oil stuff for the epilepsy and that. I've got a nephew that down in Utah, and it's been proven that he went from 100 and something seizures in a day down to about 25.
Okay.
Zeb, and caller, thank you so much for that. And Zeb, that's what I'm trying to tell all of the listeners. There is, given this plant and its genetic ability to produce what it can with respect to all of this array of chemical compounds, it has been found that there, at least with cannabidiol, there is a very legitimate, specific treatment for seizure activity in humans. And we don't want to be put in the position of denying that kind of treatment to citizens of the state of Idaho. But there's a very appropriate way to go about that. Whether or not that kind of legislation would be introduced here or not, I can't say. But I can tell you that with respect to the old, quotes, medicinal marijuana or recreational marijuana, no.
Yeah. And I think there's got to be a definition. Is it a problem of semantics? Is it a problem with words? And words could be defining and basically stymie the problem. Are we strong enough on our verbiage and our words right now, Fred, or does it have to be more refined and defined?
Well, with respect to the state of Idaho, we don't have research institutions here like Utah does. Utah and the University of Utah has they have wonderful research facilities. The Utah legislature authorized that research to be ongoing and experimental programs to treat patients, as the caller pointed out when he called in. But Idaho doesn't have those kinds of facilities. And certainly, people have the freedom to go across state lines to those states that have research facilities that allow those kinds of products and allow those kinds of experimental programs and patients to be enrolled in those programs to get that kind of treatment when there's a legitimate source to it. So it's questionable whether or not Idaho, whether or not we could actually have some kind of a bill that would protect against all of the abuses, because we have to do that or we just simply can't go there.
Absolutely. We have another call. Caller with your question. Go ahead, please.
Okay, isn't it true that they already have medicines or a pill that you can take the same thing, and that they don't even need to go into this? It's already there for a doctor to prescribe. They don't need to do it through illegal or whatever.
We'll have him answer that on the air. Go ahead, Fred.
Caller, I think what the question that you're asking is not what they call alepsia or Charlotte's Web, which is hemp oil that has less than 0.3% THC and at least 15% cannabidiol, which is what is required to control seizures and control several forms of epilepsy. That's an oil. I don't think that there's any pill form of it, although I may be misinformed about that, but the latest research I did, I don't see that. Now, one of the real problems that we have is that hemp is illegal to grow in the United States. Hemp oil, you can go down to any grocery store and buy all the hemp oil you want. Hemp oil is defined as the extract of dried hemp, but it has to have less than 0.3% THC. And it can only be legal if it's imported, if it's manufactured outside of the United States and then imported into the United States. It's illegal to manufacture that in the United States.
Okay.
Now, yes, there are companies in Canada and there's companies in England that produce this, and it can be imported. So that's the other reason that Idaho hasn't done anything, Zeb, is that I've taken a look at this, and the fact is that we don't really need any legislation to actually have that product legally imported for the citizens of the state of Idaho. So that's why you haven't seen anything done in the Idaho legislature regarding this, because people can actually get this form that is beneficial to patients with seizure activity.
Let me ask you this, Fred, and I'm sure you converse with other lawmakers and legislators in other states, but I was surprised, quite frankly, by a newspaper story that said currently, and I'm quoting from the story, currently 23 states allow some sort of marijuana use. I was shocked over that. What are your thoughts?
I think they are referring to exactly what the two callers have referenced when they have called in about this particular form of hemp extract to treat, or cannabis extract to treat seizure activity. My understanding is there's almost 30 states now that have introduced legislation to either authorize research into or authorize the use of that particular product for patients. I'm not aware of that many states allowing recreational use of marijuana, or the old term medicinal marijuana, which was just a ruse to get around recreational marijuana.
Absolutely. Fred, we've only got a couple of minutes left, and I'd be amiss if I didn't, while I had the chance with you on the program. We're literally about a month away from the start of the legislative session, and I know that there's a lot of things on your plate for this year. Give us kind of a preview highlight. What are the most concerning issues for you, a representative of the state of Idaho, before you go to the legislative session?
Well, as a matter of fact, the organizational session is going on this week, and I'm actually in the Capitol in my office right now talking to you, trying to get things sorted out. My understanding is that the biggest issues are going to be dealing with the recommendations from the governor's task force on education. They have proposed a bunch of changes, some of which are going to be extremely controversial, all of which are going to be extremely expensive, probably to the tune of about $325 million over 5 years. Man, where that money's going to come from, I don't know. So there's going to be a huge budget discussion and huge policy decisions made on education. Number 2 is going to be transportation. We literally have a lot of bridges, particularly bridges and roads in particularly the local highway districts that need significant repair. And how we're going to fund those is going to be a point of major discussion, Zeb. So I see education and transportation as being the 2 biggest issues that the citizens need to follow with respect to budget and with respect to policy decisions going forward.
Okay, now I'm going to ask you a question right there because I commented on this the other day on my program. The federal government wants to, at this time, because of lower gas prices and lower per barrel prices of crude oil, they want to impose a much larger federal tax to help fund for the infrastructure like you're talking about, our highways and bridges. My opposition to that is very blunt. You give the feds the money, it could end up going for a hamster study on a treadmill. I don't trust them. I would much rather see the money be allocated by the states in a private lockbox fund, if you would, that can only be used for infrastructure, and we, the people of that respective state, would have controls over whether it's spent for infrastructure or not. I don't trust government. That's it, plain and simple, Fred. I can't help it.
Amen, brother. But what you need to do is round up our federal legislators and have them, when they pass any kind of a highway bill, then they need to put those sideboards in the legislation. Because the problem is the state government, of course, can't do anything about that. And I agree with you, 110%. And I'm sure that every listener out there probably does too. But if I could do it, or if it were within the power of the state legislature in Idaho, it'd be done, Zeb, and you know that.
Yeah. How are we going to force their hand, though? How do we force the hand of Mike Crapo and Jim Risch and other senators from other states to understand that, no, we can't go with increases to go to the federal government because we're going to end up funding something like a study for the sex life of angleworms or something? I want that money for the bridges and the highways in our state, and I want it dedicated in a lockbox fund.
I would agree, but man, Zeb, I don't know how you impose good government on a body like Congress. I mean, there's a lot of bright people in the United States, and if somebody could have figured that out a long time ago, I'm sure it would have been done.
We have a caller with a quick question.
I don't know how we do that.
We have a caller, one last call. I've only got time for this. Short. Keep it sweet and short. Caller, go ahead, please.
Thank you. My question would be for the return of the highways and byways in the state of Idaho. Instead of doing a federal tax on our fuel, can we do a local and state tax, say, on our driver's licenses and our titles here in the state of Idaho? That way it's not in federal hands. I'll hang up. Thanks.
All right. Fred, good question. Go ahead, please.
Yes, if in fact we could take all... If we could take all of the federal tax money and never send it to Washington, D.C. and keep it here, yes. The one little problem with transportation is that for every federal dollar we send back to Washington, D.C., Idaho is the recipient of $1.38 in federal gas taxes. So we're going to take it in the shorts if we go into that program. And states like California and New York, et cetera, have absolutely tried to go to Congress and get that very program installed because they want all of their money to go to California and New York, not to come to Idaho. That's a big problem. But I would agree with the caller that what we really need is to never have the money go to Washington, D.C. to start with respect to things like transportation.
Fred, real quick, when Butch Otter came out about a year and a half ago and said that he wanted to have an odometer tax, I called Butch personally, and I said, that'll never work, because quite frankly, a person like myself, I drive about 70% of my miles out of the state of Idaho, so why should I pay a tax on that? And fortunately, that was kind of thrown to the ground and stomped on. But are there other ideas that they're going to try to implement this year during the legislative session?
I think, Zeb, that you'll hear talk of a lot of ideas, but I don't think that you're going to get new ideas introduced. I think a bunch of bills will be printed just to see how the citizens feel about various methods of funding transportation.
Right.
And in other words, should we revert back to some kind of a weight distance tax? Should we revert to just a simple increase in fuel tax? Does anybody want general fund money put into transportation? I would never go there. Various questions like that, what are legitimate questions about how we fund a basic infrastructure need to keep commerce rolling in the state of Idaho. How do we do that? And I think you're going to see bills introduced to engage the public so the public can come back to us and say, hey, that idea isn't going to work for me out here in Cassia County, but I can support this idea over here as long as I make sure that you guys don't squander the money and you're actually going to fix the bridges and the roads and whatnot.
All right, listen.
What you're going to say.
I really appreciate it. I'm out of time, but I want to say thank you, Fred. God bless you for taking the time out of your schedule to come on the program. Representative Fred Wood, and don't make yourself a stranger. Come back real soon. Thanks, Fred. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Zeb. God bless you.
All right, sir. Merry Christmas. Thank you very, very much. Representative Fred Wood, and we certainly thank him for coming on our program this morning and discussing a multitude of subjects, including possible gas taxes. Right now, I got to pay some bills here real quick, so stand by. And then we've got some other guests with us momentarily. I want to say Merry Christmas wishes from Butte Irrigation, 116 South, 600 West of Paul and Kimberly Road. Your Zomatic dealer. They will get you wet, and they've got all the parts and service for all brands. Over 35 years of experience. Merry Christmas from Butte Irrigation. Also, Merry Christmas from Vicky's Country Gardens, 185 South, 600 West of Paul. Oh, she says, I've got gift certificates for Christmas stocking stuffers. What a great idea for next spring. At Vicky's Country Garden, she wishes you Merry Christmas. And here's something very important. We all should have our hearing checked. We all want to hear what we might be missing. Mount Harrison Audiology, 1218 9th Street, Unit 2, right across the street from the Minidoka Hospital Emergency Room in Rupert. Wishing you and yours a very Merry Christmas with better hearing. Mount Harrison Audiology. Thank you very, very much. Oh my, let's see what else have we got here real quick before we get our next set of guests on the program this morning. I want to remind you too about the Book Plaza. Hello, Colonel Dale. How you doing at Whipple's Book Plaza, 222 West 11th Street in Burley? This is the biggest and best bookstore around. 3 stories chock full of books and gifts and jewelry and decorating items. Holy cow. I don't even know how many thousands and thousands and thousands of books are there. I heard one time somebody said, I think, 250,000 books. Whipple's Book Plaza, Colonel Dale and the crew, 222 West 11th Street in Burley. Really nice people wishing you and yours a Merry, Merry Christmas. Don't forget, next week, on Thursday, we are going to be over at Valley White Home and Ranch for our broadcast, all 3 hours, and that's going to be their Christmas remote. It's going to be fantabulous at 910 South Oneida in Rupert, and then we're going to leave and go over to Denny's at 11:30 for our Christmas lunch bunch party, so don't miss it. We got a big week next week on December 11th. Want to remind you, too, about Let's Ride, Highway 24, exactly 270 Highway Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley. Oh, where the fun is sold. Oh, they got something for everybody. I mean, all the snowmobiles, all the accessories. They've got all the ATVs and all the accessories. They've got it all for you. Great Christmas gift-giving ideas. And their winter hours are Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, Saturdays, 9 to 4 at Let's Ride. Yep, where the fun is sold, Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley. I believe, I'm going to go to Gina first. Gina, do we have guests over there in the studio?
No.
We don't?
No.
Oh. Well, then we are at a miss right now because they're not here either.
Yeah, nobody showed up here.
Well, you know what? You want to pull a rabbit out of your hat and talk to the rabbit?
Sure, I can do that. Not a problem.
When I ask somebody to be on the program and they're not here on time, it creates really bad feelings with me, and because I don't like dead air, and I was not planning on having dead air. They said they would be here, and I don't know. Is somebody out in our yard, Deanne, or whatever? Interesting. And I'm not that hard to find. If I can find my place, anybody can find my place. And we are looking for Dan Hendricks and his entourage with his band. They should be in the studio and talking to us, but they're not here. Caller, I'll be right there. Don't forget all kinds of unbelievable doorbuster savings at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley. Oh, my goodness. You know, yesterday I was talking about all the accessories. You know, whether it is nightstands or whether it's lamps or whether it's chest of drawers, pictures. They got a beautiful selection of pictures for wall-hanging pictures at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. Yeah, I know all the carpet and all the furniture and all the mattresses and the bedroom sets, but they've got all the accessories too. So please stop in and see them today at 459 Overland in Burley, Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning.
Yes, sir.
Well, I'd like to say one thing, and I said I wish this legislature here in Idaho would use common sense about raising these mile per hours up to 80. I mean, up here in Idaho, I think that's plumb stupid.
So you're against an 80-mile-an-hour speed limit?
Yes, I am. 75 is too damn fast as it is.
You're not going to get an argument from me. As a matter of fact, I am going to agree with you, which probably shocks you a little bit because of some of the ways that I get down to lunch bunch in a hurry, but I absolutely agree with you.
I mean, it's they don't stop and use their heads. What's the sense of raising it up there when their cars aren't as, built like they used to be out of good solid steel? This plastic stuff, when you get a collision, you're going to have a whole bunch of headache.
Well, Al, I said for a long time that even some of the rural roads, like some parts of Highway 30 are up to 65, which I think is too fast for an intersection of rural problems, whether it's with your feed trucks or whether it's your grain trucks, corn trucks, milk trucks, whatever, and they go too fast. Right by my place, it is a death zone.
Yep, I know. So anyway, that's my gripe, but let's carry on and making this new year a lot better off, okay?
I hope so, Al, please. And I hope the mess in Ferguson can be subdued. Thank you so much. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Zeb. It's Dan.
Yeah, where's your people?
I'm not sure, Zeb. I thought I had lined that out real well, and tuning in the radio, thought I would hear him on the radio with you. And when I heard you busting some chops, I thought I better get on here real quick.
Well, I will bust chops, because when I make a schedule on my program, I expect it to be adhered to. But, Dan, now that you're on the air, we're going to go ahead with you. Tell us a little bit about what you wanted to talk about this morning.
Well, I am letting the community know about an upcoming concert, benefit concert over at the Wilson this Saturday from 7 till we're done. We're going for about an hour and a half show. And the benefit is a concert for Marcus Meek and his wife, Rhonda.
Okay. And basically, what is the purpose for having this concert for the Meeks? What's going on there?
The last 2 years, Marcus and Rhonda have just been hit by some pretty heavy medical expenses. Rhonda had to have
2 surgeries, and they had no insurance, and it just completely wiped out the savings, and even caused him to sell his shop or to close the shop and just to try to work from the home, and because of all he's been through, and all that he's done for the community for the past few years, we decided to put a concert together for him. So I was going through some of his old books and seeing 6 or 8 different shows. I think he puts on 1 or 2 a year, just benefiting different people for various causes. I know he worked with you for the veterans.
Yes.
Disabled veterans, and he also worked to raise money for Fantastic, for a gentleman, I believe, that was paralyzed and in need of some sort of van.
Right.
And then he's also raised money for the Wilson. Just through the years, he's been trying to do a benefit concert one after another just to raise money to keep that beautiful building in the remodeling and hopefully to the finishing stage.
Well, what goes around comes around, and good people deserve to have other people at times give them a kind of an uplifting experience, and I really respect you for this. Now, tell us a little bit about your band and the kind of music and everything else that you're going to be playing.
Well, and that was where I wanted the boys to come tell you about it themselves. These guys are, all of them, 4 of them are students of Marcus's. They've been students of his for 3, and some of them even longer, 4 years. And they are Reminisce, and they've chosen the name Reminisce because they want to play songs that appeal not only to people now, but even, just a few decades ago. So they're going to pick songs that appeal to everybody. And in a format that is fitting in a style that everyone likes. The band is made up of Cole and Joel Orban, and George Hewlin, and Felix Dupont. And they are quite a group of talented young men.
Well, now, how did you go about getting this group together, Dan? And, it's easy to say you're going to have a group, but to blend together and mold together and have the music and the sound together, that's not the easiest thing in the world to get, is it?
No. I mean, anybody who's worked with a band, Gina will tell you, it's pretty tough to put everybody all together and make something congeal like that. And, these guys, several of them are just amazingly talented. I know a little bit more about Felix and George just because I've been around them a little bit more than the Orban boys. But George has picked up the bass and is just amazing on it. Of course, his dad was in a band with me and was pretty impressive, a musical guy. And George is vocally coming along real well, too. I've just been amazed. Felix has been somebody who's been, I didn't even know until recently, but he can play piano, he plays drums, he's on guitar, and I think he prefers guitar. So when you get people, same as Joel and Cole, all 4 of these boys are just very passionate about music. And so they get up and work together and produce a sound that's good. But you had mentioned how did it all come together and how did we come around to it. And in the past, Marcus has used his students to step out and perform live performances. And so we took that idea and just kind of used it for him. These boys have been mentored by him. Like I said, some of them, I think, going back 4 years. And so it was in their heart to do something for him as well. And that's how we come up with it.
Let me ask you this, Dan. Now, I'm going to put you on the spot here. If you don't want to answer this question, I can't imagine why. Everybody knows how old I am. How old are you right now?
Me? I'm 43.
All right, 43. So you're looking at a change of music in your life. From back when you were a teenager till right now. I would say that there has been a definite trend of change in music, more so than at any other time in our musical history. We've seen country music change. We've seen pop music change. We've seen the rap music come in and I think kind of fade away a little bit, even though there are some like Eminem and what's the other guy's name that right now is hosting so many programs? I can't think of his name right now. But music has really, really changed. Are you trying to stay with the more traditional music sound?
Absolutely. I think if I were to spend expound on that a bit. I think what music's done in the last, especially 10 years, is it's become a market. It's become a way to make money. And a friend of mine was just saying it's a puppy mill where they just make these songs come out, and whatever kind of makes money, they'll just keep producing them. So we just keep buying them. And country music, I think, was the last to really turn. But you've seen a lot of that switch in the last few years. And although I have recently started realizing there's some good songwriters and some good artists there, but absolutely we want to stick to music that is soulful, because I believe music connects emotionally in a powerful way. And there's just something about singing a song that reaches people and connects with them in the very soul or the core of their being. I mean, every one of us has experienced that, where a song just expresses that emotion that you're feeling at the moment.
Yeah, but let me ask you this, though, Dan. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I would say this, and I think I know quite a bit about music because I've been with music and broadcasting for over 44 years, is that I think lyrics, and I underline that twice, are and were more perfected. They utilized more of the language back in 25, 30 years ago than they do today. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, man, I don't know that I agree on that. I do think that, we see the market go into whoever wants to buy the most albums. They're gonna sing that song to the group of people who's spending the most money on the albums. And so you're seeing that puppet mill kind of thing. But I do think that there are some amazing songs out there that connect lyrically. It's just maybe they're not produced with the best taste.
All right, now.
Kind of the whole point, I think, to get the boys singing stuff that really connects with our community.
Okay. I want you to hold that phone real still. Don't move, Dan, whatever you do, because you're on a cell phone, evidently, and it's cutting out a little bit. Let me ask you this question now. Over at that concert that night, give us the date, give us the place, give us the tickets, give us all the information one more time.
One more time. It's happening December 6th at the Wilson Theater. The doors are going to open at 6:30. The show's going to start at 7. The first band that performs is going to be the student band, just current students of Marcus's, led by Joel Orban, and then the second band after some solo performances, including one or two by Marcus himself. We're going to get the Reminisce band up there to perform first. Tickets, we're just asking for a suggested donation at the door.
Okay.
We just want people to come in and just give something to bless Marcus and Rhonda. And above all, I just want the place full.
Absolutely.
Folks, just fill it up to show this man that he's loved and supported, and to help him. I mean, he's given so much to the community through the past 6 to 8 years. Let's give back to him. Let's show him that he's got people who are here for him.
Absolutely.
Nothing else. Give him a hug and shake his hand.
I tell you what, Dan, I'm really high on you and Marcus and all of the music, and I just think it's a great, great event coming up on this Saturday night, as a matter of fact, at the Wilson Theater. And Dan Hendricks, one of the greatest, and I'm not saying this and don't take it lightly, you are one of the greatest singers and entertainers to come out of the state of Idaho, and I have nothing but the high regard for what you're doing. And thank you for being on the program this morning.
Thank you, Zeb.
All right, sir. God bless. Take care. Thank you. Excellent event coming up, benefit for the Meek family and Dan Hendricks. And wow, Dan can sing, and he sings it with an emotion and a personality that will absolutely, depending on the song, bring tears of joy or sadness to your eyes and hearts, because he can really belt out a song. He's good. Very, very good. Hey, it's time for the weather forecast, and the weather this hour is brought to everybody by Urgent Care of Jerome. That's right, Urgent Care of Jerome. Brand new over in the Jerome area at 133 West Avenue A, Suite B. And the number to call, 324-2004. 324-2004. Don't forget, Urgent Care of Jerome. And they've got everything. Convenient hours, no appointments necessary. February. Centrally located, great staff, and all the equipment to take care of you. So remember, Urgent Care of Jerome, 133 West Avenue A, Suite B in Jerome. Urgent Care of Jerome, 324-2004. They will see you today. Here now is Michael Rogers' weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers with Zip of the Rents. The only day where we're not going to see any rain takes place today. Tonight, we have weather action all the way through the weekend. So you got a nice day today, 57 for the high. And the rain will start after midnight, no, about 11 o'clock tonight. Looks for the overnight low about 32, and showers will continue into tomorrow morning. Have yourself a great day. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
Thank you, Michael. Brought to everybody by Urgent Care of Jerome, 133 West Avenue A, Suite B in Jerome. Minor emergencies, major care at Urgent Care of Jerome. Excellent, folks. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Hey, don't forget 4 Paws Bed and Bath, 370 West 200 South of Rupert. Number to call. I love this number, 438-4444. They're having their annual Santa party scheduled on December the 13th from 11 to 3, and they're going to be taking pictures of your pets and children with Santa and great sales throughout the store, and you can spin this big wheel for great discounts. Don't forget all the refreshments there, too. It's going to be fun at 4 Paws Bed and Bath, 370 West 200 South of Rupert on December 13th. Let's get Gina in here for just a second. Gina, do you know whose birthday it is today?
No.
With the day you're having, do you care whose birthday it is today?
Maybe I need to, but I don't know whose birthday it is. Is it Deanne's birthday?
No, hers is in February. It's a football player that I think is right now, of course, I'm prejudiced, I think he's the greatest quarterback in the NFL. Does that give you a clue?
Well, it's not Brett Favre.
No, but it's Aaron Rodgers. And
I wouldn't have even guessed.
He's 31 years old today. Can you imagine all the accolades and everything he's done, and he's only turning 31 today?
He's 11 years younger than me.
He's a whole bunch younger than me. Hey, I got a question for you. If you're driving to work in the morning and you need to be at the radio station, I mean, absolutely, your job is very, very important. And you, of all people, like myself, are dictated by the clock, okay? And in certain parts of the United States yesterday, people were put possibly on a firing line at their jobs because they could not get to work because of some of the protesters laying down in the middle of the road. It happened in California, it happened in Washington, D.C., it happened in other locations because they were showing their allegiance to what they thought was the wrong verdict by the grand jury in Ferguson, Missouri. And I draw the line there. I think that working people and other people, emergency staff, etc., the police should have went in there and just literally moved those people out of the way.
Honestly, I have to agree because they're posing a danger not only to themselves but to others. They're creating a traffic backlog. They're disrupting the flow of I mean, the list goes on and on and on about the violations that they're doing. They can do a peaceful protest, and I'm all about the peaceful protest. You can speak your mind because that is the basis of our Constitution. That is what our country has been founded on. We do have the right to free speech. However, do it responsibly. Don't disrupt others. You can get out there, hold your picket signs, do whatever. Make your voice heard. I applaud that, but don't do it the way they're doing it now.
There was one man that was on TV last night. Did you see him, by the way, that black man? This is interesting. I'll take the call in just a minute, but I want you to respond to this, Gina. Here was a man that was holding down, listen to this, 3 jobs. He was holding down 3 jobs, and he worked almost 24/7 every day, and he basically was screaming at the protesters, saying that he had 6 children at home, some had health problems, he needed to get to work, get out of the way so he could get to work, and they laid down in front of him. And my heart went out to this man, and I thought, how low can these people be where this man might lose his job because they were jumping on the bandwagon for a punk and a felon in Ferguson, Missouri, that the grand jury found that he was guilty and the policeman wasn't, and yet this man that was trying to hold down jobs for his kids and buy medical coverage for his kids might lose his job. That was asinine.
That was asinine, and I would hope that his boss or bosses understand the situation and will give him a pass and won't fire him.
Okay, I do too.
I'm hoping, but you never know.
I know. Hey, by the way, how are we coming through? Somebody said earlier they called on my cell phone and said it was a little fuzzy. Is that right? I'll call back if it is.
Sounds good to me.
Oh, then that's all that matters. You're the boss. We'll take that call. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, I seen that on television. You know what? That guy should have took that megaphone and shoved it where the sun don't shine.
I'm glad you saw that and you called in, because I was so enraged that here's a man that was dedicated to taking care of his family, and here he was being stopped of going to work, one of his 3 jobs, and all because of a bunch of protesters. And you know as well as I do, Al, about 99.9% of those protesters had no clue what they were doing out there.
I know it. And then Hannity last night showed all them pictures, and there was some whites in among the blacks, so it ain't just the blacks.
That's right.
This has got to stop because it's nationwide. It's all run by that Soros outfit and them bunch of people that want to see America tore down and put away for the rest of our lives. Well, I say to you and them people that want to do that, go straight to hell.
You know, Al, if you want to protest, and it's kind of what Gina said a minute ago, if you want to protest on a street corner, you want to protest on a vacant lot, you want to protest out in front of a building, that's fine. But when you inhibit and prohibit people from trying to make a livelihood and follow up through and go to their employer, or if there's an emergency situation, somebody needs to get through with an ambulance, I say bring in the water cannons or the snow plows or whatever and get these people out of the way.
I've always said that. Bring in them water cannons and give them a good old shower time. You know?
All right. And you know,
stop a lot of this crap.
Looking at some of them, Al, a bar of Ivory soap wouldn't have hurt a lot of them.
How about lye soap, old grandma stuff?
Okay, thanks, Al. Appreciate it. All right. Hey, when you think about life insurance and you think about health insurance and retirement planning and employee benefits, always think about our friends Dean, Cameron, Todd Siemens at Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Number to call for an appointment to make sure that you're covered and protected, 436-4424. They are very accessible and devoted to serving you. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. You get a hold of them today. Oh my, let's see, what else have I got here for you real quick. Let's see, next week, as I've mentioned to you, we are on Thursday going to be over at Valley White Home and Ranch for a great big remote broadcast, and that's going to be all 3 hours of our show next Thursday on the 11th. Then we're going to jump out of there and run right smack dab over to our friends at Denny's Restaurant for our Zeb's Lunch Bunch. So put that on your calendar for December the 11th. I'll take some more calls. Give me a jingle, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Also, don't forget Redder's Showcase, 2611 Overland in Burley. My goodness, this Friday and Saturday, wow! They're going to have so many neat deals going on for you at Redder's Showcase. 12 months, same as cash on approved credit, and you might win a free vacation voucher with a purchase over $699. Many locations to choose from, and check out all the Serta mattresses. The queen set start at just $299, and of course all the Amana, Whirlpool, and Maytag appliances, everything for you at Redder's Showcase, 2611 Overland in Burley. This Friday and Saturday, they're calling it Super Friday and Saturday, December 5th and 6th. Oh, and they're located at 2611 Overland in Burley, Redder's Showcase. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give us a jingle on the landline if you have an opportunity to give us a call this morning. Let's see what else is in the news. Oh, land and trail closures. I am going to try to get as much information for a segment next week on land and trail closures that are going on through the Forest Service and the BLM. And I've had quite a few people call me since our program segment yesterday with Jack Euler. A lot of people are outraged, absolutely outraged and incensed with the fact that our government is taking more of our public land away from our usage and our ability to enjoy the great outdoors as taxpayers. And I just want to let you know we're going to follow through and have an interesting segment on that next week on the program. Let's see. And guess who just walked in the door? It's Dr. History. Now, get on your microphone over there real quick. I want to just say this before we start this morning. Merry Christmas, by the way. Let me be one of the first to wish you a Merry Christmas.
Well, thank you. You are the first, and Merry Christmas to you.
I'm the first one that's ever wished you Merry Christmas so far this year? Today. No, I did something else. I did something else to you this morning, and that's woke you up.
No, I was awake.
No, you weren't. I heard the fluffing of the pillow when I called you. And by the way, what are we going to talk about on Dr. History this morning?
Well, I'm going to tell you what pilgrim means.
Oh, you looked it up.
I looked it up, but we're going to talk about Annie Oakley.
That's one of my favorite people, not the TV star, but the real Annie Oakley.
That's who we're going to talk about.
Okay. She was a little bitty thing.
5 foot.
Yeah, at the most, and about 90 pounds.
Probably.
Yeah. Kind of like you.
5'8", sorry.
Only, but you're an all-star basketball player, though.
That's true. Yeah, I'm pretty famous.
You just won another award, didn't you?
Bronze medal for free throw shooting 3-point
at the senior games
in St. George. Yeah,
that's better known as the Old Fogies.
Yes, 50 and up.
50 and up, way up. Okay, we're going to take a break for about 6 minutes. We'll be right back. Don't go away. Oh, I like this. Didn't that get you in the Christmas mood? I love that music. Gina's really pushing for getting a really nice gift at Christmas time. Man, that is nice, Gina. Thank you very much. I love that Christmas music. It just puts a smile on your face, joy to the world. Okay, settle down. I'm Zeb Bell, Zeb at the Ranch, and our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers, Lee's Furniture, Floors, and more at 459 Oberlin and Burley, and our friends at Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service today. Call them at 734-6969. By the way, don't forget what's going on at Quality's Electronics, 1730 Kimberly Road in Twin Falls. Excuse me, I about choked to death. They're having a great pre-Christmas sale right now. Listen to this. You can save $300 on the top-selling 65-inch smart TV, now only $999. How about a 46-inch smart TV, now only $429? What? This kind of savings you can't pass up. Entertain yourself and treat yourself to a real family Christmas present with a brand new TV from Quality's Electronics. Don't miss out on the savings. 1730 Kimberly Road. You stop in and see them today. Oh, and by the way, don't forget to stop into the Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. What's the special for today, Zeb? Maybe Dr. History will buy. I doubt it. Pork loin with onions and peppers and veggies and potatoes and super salad. That sounds delicious. Food's always great. Great menu choices. Super specials at the Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. By the way, speaking of Dr. History, my dear friend is in the studio, and we say, good morning, how are you?
Good morning, Zab. Doing great today. Nice day out there, no wind.
Yeah, really?
Yet.
What a change.
Yes.
Oh, let's get right into it this morning. Your homework assignment from last week.
Pilgrim. Definition of a pilgrim is a person who travels to a sacred place for religious reasons.
Uh-huh.
So the Pilgrims obviously left England for religious reasons, went to a sacred place, I consider sacred anyway.
Okay.
Good old America.
And so that's when John Wayne would used to go up to these people and call them pilgrims and then beat the living heck out of them. He was sending them on a sacred mission, right?
Might have been to the promised land.
Well, Pilgrim.
You're headed somewhere.
Okay. Hey, you have always had, an interest in history, and your interest is kind of, I've liked history. I majored in that in college, as a matter of fact. And, but boy, oh boy, this program, Dr. History, now the numbers are skyrocketing. I understand that it's gone from 55 countries up to what, 76?
76 countries throughout the world.
Wow.
Over 100,000 hits on our webpage.
Really?
It's just amazing, the people in South America and Europe and China.
I'm surprised they haven't severed relations with the United States.
Well, we're not done yet.
Okay, now you're going to talk about one of my favorite figures in Western history and personalities, and she was a little bitty thing, but she could shoot a gun.
And when you think of sharpshooters of the Old West, I was going to make this a quiz, but I've already told you. And I think you would have probably guessed Annie Oakley.
Right, Annie Oakley.
Yep, so that's who we're going to talk about today.
Okay, and I'm going to break in about 5 minutes or so with a commercial break. Go ahead.
All right. Well, Annie Oakley was born, actually her name was Phoebe Ann Mosey.
Phoebe Mosey?
Phoebe Ann Mosey.
I'm glad she changed her name.
Yeah, that just didn't fit real good. But,
hi, Phoebe, shoot a gun.
Yeah, but she was an American sharpshooter and exhibition shooter. Oakley's amazing talent led to a starring role in Buffalo Bill's Wild West show. Her timely rise to fame allowed her to become one of the first American women to be a superstar. Oakley also was variously known as Miss Annie Oakley, Little Sure Shot, Watanya Cecilia.
Say that one fast 5 times.
And I'll get to that a little later.
I'll bet you will.
Phoebe Annie Oakley, Mrs. Annie Oakley, Mrs. Annie Butler, and Mrs. Frank Butler. And you'll kind of see why some of those names came about.
All right, get a little close to that microphone and let us have it.
All righty. Well, Annie Oakley was born, like say, Phoebe Annie Mosey in 1860 in a cabin in Ohio. There's a stone-mounted plaque in the vicinity of the cabin site, which was placed by the Annie Oakley Committee in 1881. Now, Annie's parents were Quakers of English descent. They married in 1848. They moved to a rented farm in Ohio. Born in 1860, Annie was the 6th of Jacob and Susan's 9 children. Now, Annie's father, who had fought in the War of 1812, died in early 1866 at the age of 62 from pneumonia because he was in a blizzard and caught pneumonia and died.
Oh, my.
Now, because of poverty following the death of her father, Annie did not regularly attend school as a child, although she did attend later in childhood and in adulthood. Now, on March 15, 1870, at age 9, Annie was admitted to the Dark County Infirmary along with her older sister, Sarah Ellen. Now, according to her autobiography, she was put in the care of the infirmary's superintendent and his wife, who taught her to sew and decorate. Well, beginning in the spring of 1870, she was bound out. Now,
what does that mean?
Well, that kind of means she was sent out to work for a family.
Oh, in other words, kind of as a working person that still lived at the caretaker's house?
No, she didn't. She was bound out to a local family to help care for their infant son.
Oh, I see.
On the false promise of 50 cents a week and an education.
50 cents a week?
50 cents a week. Now, the couple had originally wanted someone who could pump water, cook, and who was bigger. Remember, she was only 5 foot tall.
Yeah.
And at this age 9, she probably wasn't even 5 foot.
Yeah.
So she spent about 2 years in near slavery to them, where she endured mental and physical abuse. She would often have to do boys' work. And one time, the wife put Annie out in the freezing cold without shoes as a punishment because she'd fallen asleep over some darning.
She put her outside without shoes? It's surprising she didn't get frostbite.
Yeah. Annie referred to them as the wolves.
Really?
So even in her autobiography, she kindly never told the couple's real name.
Oh, my.
So that's kind of the background.
She had a tough upbringing.
She did. No father.
Yeah.
Well, around the spring of 1872, Annie ran away from, quote, the wolves and returned to to her mother's home, and by now she's about 15.
15.
So Annie began trapping at a young age and shooting and hunting by age 8 to support her siblings and her widowed mother. And she sold the hunted game for money to locals such as shopkeepers as well as restaurants and hotels there in southern Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
But her skill eventually paid off the mortgage on her mother's farm when Annie was 15.
By shooting?
By shooting and supporting these restaurants and shopkeepers.
Really?
With food.
Supplied them with food?
Yeah. So that's quite a feat for a sibling with 8 siblings and a widowed mother.
Wow.
So anyway, Annie soon became well known throughout the region, and on Thanksgiving Day, 1875, the Bauman and Butler Shooting Act was performing in Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
Now, traveling show marksman and former dog trainer Frank Butler. Keep that name in mind.
I'm writing it down.
Frank Butler.
Frank Butler.
An Irish immigrant. He placed a $100 bet. Now, in today's money, that would be $2,148.
Wow.
And he put this bet with a Cincinnati hotel owner named Jack Frost that Butler could beat any local fancy shooter.
Yeah, he thought he was a good one.
He thought, and he was, actually.
Yeah.
But Jack Frost arranged a shooting match between Butler and the 15-year-old Annie, saying the last opponent Butler expected was a 5-foot-tall, 15-year-old girl named Annie.
Oh, boy. Tell us more.
Well, after missing on his 25th shot, Butler lost the match and the bet. Now, another account mentions that Butler actually hit on his last shot, but the bird fell beyond the boundary line or some such thing.
Mm-hmm.
But he soon began courting Annie, and they married in 1876.
How old was he?
It doesn't say, so I'm not sure.
Dirty old man.
But, back then, they did marry young.
Right.
Now, unfortunately, for whatever reason, they did not have any children.
Okay.
So...
well, I have a real smart remark to make, but I'm not going to make it.
All right.
Couldn't get close to her with that gun, could you?
Oh, Annie. Well, Annie and Frank Butler lived in Cincinnati for a time. Oakley, the stage name she adopted when she and Frank began performing together, is believed to have been taken from the city's neighborhood of Oakley where they resided.
I see.
So that's kind of where that Oakley thing came in.
All right.
Now, some people believe she took on the name because that was the name of a man who had paid her train fare when she was a child.
Okay.
So one of those two could be where the name Oakley came up.
All right, I'm going to stop you right there because I got to pay some bills.
Good place.
All right. Don't forget, on Thursdays, we have a segment called Cache County School Days, brought to you by 2 wonderful sponsors. A Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley. They've got all the clothing, and they've got all the games, and they've got all the puzzles. And hey, listen to this. Go into A Child's World and mention my name, Doc, and you'll receive 25% off any item. That's right. Christmas shopping right there at A Child's World, 1308 Overland in Burley. And also the Ambulatory Surgery Center. Don't forget the end of the year is approaching, and if you've met your deductible and you still need some of those surgeries like hand surgery, knee arthroscopes, colonoscopies, please call them and save money. 677-8888. 677-8888. Located at 1344 Highland Drive in Burley. Ambulatory Surgery Center and A Child's World, bringing you school days in Cache County. Also, I want to remind everybody real quick about Sportsman's Warehouse. Man, I love Sportsman's Warehouse. What a place to shop. 1940 Bridgeview in Twin Falls. My goodness, all of your Christmas shopping for the boaters and the fishermen and the archerymen and the hunting and shooting and the electronics. Everything. I'm telling you, this is the place to find what you're looking for the great outdoors. And they've got expert people with expert advice to help you at Sportsman's Warehouse, 1940 Bridgeview in Twin Falls. And now, more about Annie Oakley.
All right, here we go. Well, they joined Buffalo Bill's Wild West in 1885, and at 5 feet tall, Oakley was given the nickname of Watanya Cecilia by fellow performer Sitting Bull.
Okay.
Sitting Bull was at that time working with the Wild West show.
You better be real careful when you put all those names together. I want to stay on the air.
Okay. Now, she was also called Little Sure Shot in some of the public advertisements. And during her first engagement with Buffalo Bill's show, Oakley experienced a tense professional rivalry with rival sharpshooter Lillian Smith.
Oh, boy.
In fact, it must have been a little heated because Oakley temporarily left the Buffalo Bill show, but she returned after Smith left.
Really?
So, I don't know.
A little friction.
A little professional jealousy or
and she
whatever.
was just a kid.
Yeah. She was still only about 16 or 17.
Oh, my.
So, well, then they went to Europe, and she performed for Queen Victoria of the United Kingdom, King Umberto of Italy, the President of France, and other crowned heads of state.
Really?
And Oakley had such good aim that at his request, she knocked the ashes off a cigarette held by the newly crowned German Kaiser, Wilhelm II.
Oh, she could have got us all in trouble.
Well, let me keep going. Some people later ventured that if Annie had shot Wilhelm and not a cigarette, she could have prevented World War I. So, now, in fact, after the outbreak of World War I, Oakley sent a letter to the Kaiser requesting a second shot. But the story says the Kaiser did not respond.
We've lost our friends in Germany.
Yes, there they go. So, anyway, Oakley promoted the service of women in combat operations for the United States Armed Forces.
Really?
Yeah. She wrote a letter to President William McKinley in 1898 offering the government the services of a company of 50 lady sharpshooters. They would provide their own arms and ammunitions.
Mad women with guns.
Yeah.
Not good.
And that was because she thought maybe the U.S. would go to war with Spain.
Yeah, okay.
So, but the Spanish-American War did occur, but Oakley's offer was not accepted. Theodore Roosevelt did, however, name his volunteer cavalry the Rough Riders, and I never did know this, but it was after Buffalo Bill's Wild West show, Rough Riders.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that either.
No. And that
Charging up San Juan Hill.
Right. And that, of course, was where Oakley was a major star in the Wild West show.
Yeah.
Well, the same year that McKinley was fatally shot by an assassin in 1901, Oakley was also badly injured in a train accident. But she recovered after temporary paralysis and with five spinal operations.
Ooh.
Now, back then...
That's a little touchy.
Yeah, back then, surgery was, not quite like
What year was that?
That was 1901. So...
Man... That's still when the West was fairly wild.
Yeah. But she recovered. She left the Buffalo Bill show and in 1902 began a quieter acting career in a stage play written especially for her.
Really?
It was called The Western Girl, and Oakley played the role of a gal by the name of Nancy Berry.
Mm-hmm.
And she used a pistol, a rifle, a rope to outsmart a group of outlaws.
Indoors she was shooting?
That's a good question. I don't know. I suppose they filmed outside. Just going to guess on that one.
All right.
But anyway, following her injury and change of career, it only added to her legend that her shooting expertise continued to increase into her 60s. And throughout her career, it's believed that Oakley taught upwards of 15,000 women how to use a gun.
Really?
Oakley believed strongly that it was crucial for women to learn how to use a gun.
We need her today.
We do, as not only a form of physical and mental exercise, but also to defend themselves.
Absolutely! Annie, come back!
So, in fact, she said, I would like to see every woman know how to handle guns as naturally as they know how to handle babies.
Oh, my goodness sakes.
So she was, kind of a
What
pioneer.
kind of a gun did she use? Or was she adept at many kinds of guns?
I think she used a lot of different ones. I'm going to talk about one trick where she used basically a .22 caliber rifle.
22?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So, but Oakley's own story about her very first shot at the age of 8. She said, I saw a squirrel run down over the grass in front of the house, through the orchard, and stop on a fence and to get a hickory nut. Taking a rifle from the house, she fired at the squirrel, writing later that it was a wonderful shot going right through the head from side to side.
Oh, my goodness sakes.
So, but Oakley never failed to delight her audiences, and her feats of marksmanship were truly incredible. Now, at 30 paces, she could split a playing card held edge on edge,
Wait a minute. She could split a playing card held edge on. So she was shooting at the side of the card.
Of the playing card.
Wow.
She hit dimes tossed into the air. She shot cigarettes from her husband's lips.
That guy never said a bad word to her.
He was a good husband.
Yes.
And a playing card being thrown into the air, she could riddle it before it touched the ground.
You're kidding me.
Now, perhaps her most famous trick was her ability to, again, repeatedly split a playing card on edge and put several more holes in it before it touched the ground.
No.
Using a .22 caliber rifle at 90 feet.
90 feet? That's 90. From home plate to first base.
That's 90 feet. I couldn't even see the card.
There'd be in the hospital the guy that was holding it.
Yep. But anyway, in 1884, one time she was being watched by Chief Sitting Bull when he says, Oakley playfully skipped on stage, lifted her rifle, and aimed the barrel at a burning candle. In one shot, she snuffed out the flame with a whizzing bullet. Sitting Bull watched her knock corks off bottles and slice through a cigar that Butler held in his teeth.
You're kidding, man. She was something else.
She really was.
Yeah.
In 1904, this is kind of a difficult time for her. Cocaine prohibition stories were selling really well.
Ooh.
So the newspaper magnate William Randolph Hearst published a false story that Oakley had been arrested for stealing to support a cocaine habit.
Ooh.
Well, the woman actually arrested was actually a performer in Chicago who told them that her name was Annie Oakley.
So in other words, it was a bad story and the wrong person got the credit, really.
Well, the original Annie Oakley spent much of the next 6 years winning 54 of 55 libel suits against newspapers.
Wow.
She collected less in judgments than were her legal expenses, but to her, the most important thing was her reputation.
Yeah. Was she a lot of the women in the old days of the West, you know, we were talking about Big Nose Kate and all these other women, Calamity Jane. From the pictures I've seen of Annie Oakley, she was very attractive. Is that right?
Yeah, from what I've seen, too, she just seemed like a very attractive young lady.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
But anyway, most of the newspapers that printed the story relied on this Hearst article, and when they learned that it was wrong, they immediately retracted
they apologized.
The false story. But Hearst didn't want to.
Really?
And he tried to avoid paying the court costs, which at that time were $20,000, $500,000 today. But
and then he sent his granddaughter out to rob banks.
Well, that's true. But in fact, he went so far as to send an investigator out where she grew up to try to find gossip about her past.
He was a dirty man.
But the investigator obviously found nothing.
Really?
Any dirt on her.
Well, did she ever marry and have any family?
Oh, Annie?
Yeah.
Well, she married Frank Butler.
Yeah, Frank, but they never did have any kids.
They never had any children, no.
Really?
So in 1912, the Butlers, now temporarily retired, they went to Maryland, they bought a piece of land, they moved into the house in 1913.
So she was really never a Western quote-unquote person or personality. She was basically raised in Ohio, you said.
Right.
And then lived back on the East Coast.
Right.
I didn't know that.
And in 1917, the Butlers moved to North Carolina and returned to public life. Oakley continued to set records into her 60s.
Oh, my.
And she was quite a generous woman as far as helping people. She was...
Yeah, I would imagine some of the parts of her shooting exhibition were changed when she got older and shakier, like the guy holding the cigarette in his mouth. Probably that was eliminated.
Well, let me just tell you this. She embarked on a comeback and intended to star in a feature-length silent movie in a 1922 shooting contest in North Carolina. At this time, 62-year-old Oakley hit 100 clay targets in a row.
In a row?
100.
And shooting what kind of a gun? A shotgun or a...
I'm thinking it was still the 22.
Oh, my goodness.
I couldn't hit that many with two shotguns.
Yeah, really.
Double-barreled.
My.
So, late 1922, Oakley and Butler suffered a debilitating car accident that forced her to wear a steel brace on her leg. A year and a half later, she was still setting records. Her health declined in 1925. She died at the age of 66.
Wow.
Butler was so grieved by her death that he stopped eating and died 18 days later.
Really?
In Michigan.
So they really got along well.
They did. And it was discovered after she died that her entire fortune had been spent on her family and charities.
No kidding.
And she was actually inducted inducted into the National Cowgirl Museum Hall of Fame in Fort Worth, Texas.
Yeah, I've been there and saw the exhibit. Yeah.
So there were other sharpshooters, and we don't have time to go into those guys, but we will at some time.
You know, that is really interesting about Annie Oakley, and I'm trying to think, and I'm going to use my mental telepathy here to see if I can recall it. I'm going through the alphabet real quick. In the late 50s and early 60s, Annie Oakley had a TV series. You know,
Yes,
the title was Annie
right.
Oakley. And I think the name of the actress that played her was Gail Davis. I believe it was Gail Davis. And in real life, if I recall correctly, she also did some trick shooting.
That could have been.
Yeah.
Now, I've got a trick shooting story to tell you real quick. I know
Okay, we
about
got 30 seconds.
When I was just a young man, I had a BB gun.
Uh-oh.
And sitting
This
there,
sounds like the Christmas story.
Sort of.
No, I see.
I cocked the gun in the house, which was taboo.
Not
You just
good.
don't do that.
Not good.
And forgot that I had it cocked.
boy.
Annie Oakley came on, and as you recall, she would be standing on a horse and shoot a target. Well, when the target came on, I shot as well. Everybody for the next couple of years had a little dimple on their forehead from where I shot the TV.
And how long was it before you could sit down at the table?
Dad and I had a rather good discussion.
I'll bet you did. Listen, that was excellent. Real quick, if people want to hear more of Dr. History and our past programs, what do they do?
Dr-History.com.
Okay. Excellent job.
Thank you.
Now, next week you're not going to be here, right?
Right.
Okay,
But
we're going to have a voice from the past.
We'll pick out a good story.
Okay, Doc, take care. God bless.
You
Merry
have a good
Christmas
day, Zeb.
again.
Thank
you. Real quick, before we send it over to our main studios, I want to remind everybody about Ramsey Heating and Electric, wishing you a very Merry Christmas at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. 57 years of warm winters and cool summers. For all your heating and electrical needs, Ramsey Heating and Electric. Along with our friends at Pickett Equipment Company. Hello, Steve and the rest of the crew at 976 East Main in Burley. And, of course, they've got the best in bean equipment. The one-step rod cutter and the Twin Master edible bean combine. Pickett Equipment Company wishing you and yours a very Merry Christmas. As does Berry Equipment and Rental at 465 Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls, South Lincoln in Jerome, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. For all your equipment needs, rental or purchasing, stop in at Berry Equipment and Rental, and they wish you and yours a very Merry Christmas. We'll be right back. Don't you go away.
And now back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb.
Oh, thank you much. We're on the home stretch. Last 30 minutes of the program this morning, and welcome back, Zeb at the Ranch. We're going to have our guest on momentarily. Don't forget Snyder's Surplus. Oh, my. Brand new store. Brand new merchandise. Same great friendly service at Snyder's Surplus. And don't forget, they've got all kinds of different gift-giving ideas over there at Snyder's Surplus. They've got a lot of the toys in, and they've got all kinds of furniture like couches and recliners and bedroom sets, and they've got all those wool blankets for those cool fall nights and the sleeping bags for the hunters. All of this and much, much more. I don't even have a clue as to all they do have over there. My goodness, Snyder's Surplus. 112 South, 200 west of Rupert. You stop over and see Tammy and Leland and the whole crew today at Snyder's Surplus. Hey, by the way, before I forget, I want to remind you, too, about Gary Shoresman. What a great series of books that he has, and these are fantastic gifts for Christmas. Yes, keepsakes for generations to come. Gary Shoresman, of course, world-renowned author of history books about our area, like A History of Kaimana Minidoka Homesteaders and the Way We Were, and Our Past May Surprise You, a story about a Sequoia. I mean, the books go on, and all of his books can be obtained at the bookstore on the square in Rupert and the Minidoka County Museum. These are special Christmas presents for special people. Absolutely great ideas for Christmas from Gary Shoresman. What an author. You check out these books today. Right now, let's go to the phone line, and we have a young man that's been on my program many, many times in the past, and hopefully many times in the future. Good morning, Casey Given. How you doing?
Good morning, Zeb. I'm doing well. It's great to be here with you.
Well, I appreciate your coming on the program. And Casey, I guess simply put, I think this absolute mess in Ferguson, Missouri has been dialed up louder and louder by the Obama administration and by the Department of Justice, and it's got completely out of hand. People are protesting, and I don't think many of them even know what they're protesting about. They've stymied people trying to get to work, and they've just created a, I think, nonsensical situation of the law and the interpretation of the law. All of that being said, what are your thoughts about what happened in Ferguson, Missouri?
Well, Zeb, I would largely agree with that. I think that right now what we're seeing, as with many protest movements, kind of the message behind it gets lost amidst just kind of, really what we're seeing right now is rioting and looting.
Yeah.
We've seen, just recently the store where that Michael Brown, allegedly robbed, and what originally why Darren Wilson was called to the scene was looted was looted in the aftermath of the protest. So I think it's really kind of a disgusting move we're seeing by some of the protesters and kind of using this opportunity for selfish gain. But that being said, I do think ultimately, Zeb, and I'm really interested in having a discussion with you. I do think that the situation has really brought a lot of concern about police militarization across the United States that Americans should pay attention to. But as far as how these Ferguson protesters are handling it, they're just doing a horrible job.
I would agree with much of what you said, but see, I'm a little bit older. No, I'm a lot older than you are, Casey, so I got to be honest. My attitude about police in this country is maybe not as drastic as what you said. I think that in many respects, what the Milwaukee County Sheriff said after this happened in Ferguson, Missouri was really the truth. He said, please, government, stay out of our lives, stay out of our local police forces, do not try to federalize everything, let us handle it. And you and I may agree and may have some slight disagreements, but I think that Obama and his administration are utilizing a very negative subject to try to push for more federal militarization of our police forces. Are you on the same page as I am or not?
Yeah, I would largely agree with that, Zeb. I think that certainly what we've seen here is, well, let's take a step back. I think right now, in the aftermath of this situation, we're seeing the Obama administration and the federal government really getting all up in the business of the Ferguson, Missouri Police Department. I mean, now we have the Department of Justice threatening, another investigation, threatening to even charge of Darren Wilson again, which I think is ridiculous. And we're seeing a lot of federal involvement that could be very scary. At the same time, I think that there is a lot of cause for concern about police militarization over the past few decades. I mean, back in the 60s, all the way up into the 60s, we didn't see police officers carrying militarized weapons, having such great SWAT raids or whatnot, to the frequency that we're seeing today. And that's all because of the federal government. That's all because of the Department of Defense's surplus programs that give these weapons of war to our local police department. I would say that there is a great cause for concern about police militarization in America. But you're absolutely right that what the Obama administration is doing now in the Department of Justice, how they've been handling this situation, could be a cause for concern about even further militarization of local police.
You and I, there's quite a bit of age discrepancy here, but I think we're basically turning the same page in the same book. But I want to jump one step backward, if I can, and have you respond to this, because I think you and I will agree on this also. What I heard from Eric Holder yesterday, the Attorney General, sent shivers up my backbone when he said that the Attorney General's office and the federal system was going to put out a guideline on profiling, and Holder's words yesterday that he said he is going to have a forever end to racial profiling in this country. Now, Casey, you know as well as I do, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it must be a duck. How in the world are people in police work ever going to do their job if they don't profile and understand who they are looking for what type of crime?
Yes, absolutely, Zeb. I think this is. I would 100% agree with you on this. I think this is really kind of concerning, and we've been seeing this not just on the ground in Ferguson, but we've also seen federal threats of involvement with, say, policies like stop and frisk in New York City that really just impede and really threaten kind of the local autonomy of local police. So I think that there is a lot of concern to be had about the federal government getting involved with local police. Of course, every American, regardless of race, gender, etc., has their constitutional rights to not be targeted or to not have their individual rights violated. But as far as policing tactics, as far as how exactly police go out there to catch the bad guys, they should have a bit of discretion and among the laboratories of democracy, among the 50 states, to catch the bad guys.
Yeah, but Casey,
so this concern over the federal government getting involved in local policing is certainly a cause for concern.
I tell you though, Casey, also include one other segment of our society in what you just said, and that's the media. We can be a big help in the media as to catching the bad guys if we have the information. But it's ludicrous to follow Eric Holder's advice on no more racial profiling. If two black men go in and rob a bank and then run out the door and get in a silver Mazda and are driving away, you don't want to just say, well, two men robbed the bank and drove away in a silver car. That limits it to about 10 million people. You've got to be specific, and you have to name the racial profiling for the information that you want to the public to help you in apprehending the bad guys.
Absolutely, Zeb. I mean, realistically, in situations like that, there are only a few characteristics that really an eyewitness could capture, such as someone's race, their height, their gender, etc. So police absolutely need that information. And shouldn't be censored by the federal government in that regard. So certainly, I think it is a cause for concern. I wouldn't exactly describe that as racial profiling per se, because it's not. It's just profiling the suspect.
Absolutely,
the potential suspect. Of course, police wouldn't be just irregardlessly pulling over anyone who fits the description of the race, but rather anyone who fits the number of characteristics of the suspect. So
absolutely.
I think that absolutely this could be a chill on local police departments to capture bad guys.
We have a caller with a question for you, Casey. Quickly, caller, go ahead, please.
Yes, they have what they call the Canamex corridor, which is I-15 coming up from Canada down to Mexico. And they've given out these armored personnel carriers to these different cities around, and one of them is the city of Preston over here that has two of them. Mm-hmm. You tell me what they need those for.
That's a good point. Casey, what about all these armored carriers? And it seems like behind the scenes, I agree with you, Casey, there's a lot being done to hire militarized police forces. It almost seems like they're having thoughts of a militarization for martial law, and it's spooky. What are they doing behind the scenes that we should be aware of as far as what you know?
Absolutely, Zeb. I want to thank the caller for that call. I think that really kind of speaks to the concerns I have about police militarization, is that we've seen the federal government get involved. This is the flip side of the coin. We've seen them get involved and lease these and give these weapons of war to local police departments across the country. And as the caller pointed out, we're not just talking about major cities that may need them, like, say, Detroit or, New York City, but the local police departments and even rural Idaho now have these weapons of war, and it's great. It's a cause for great concern.
And I think that's really the message that should be taken out of that if the protesters did, and Ferguson did it right, should really be taken out of it, is that there's really a cause for concern about police militarization in the country, and that there's been a drastic shift over the past few decades of cops being perceived as, your friendly, your neighbors who are looking out to protect the community, and instead really being really positioning themselves and being seen as soldiers in the United States, in civilian territory. So I think that there really is a cause. There's a lot to be concerned about police militarization, and fortunately, it seems like there should be some movement on the federal government. There's been such a backlash against this surplus. This military surplus program. Hopefully we'll be seeing a lot of that slow down in the future.
Let me ask you though, Casey, and boy, I got to be real careful how I say this because I have no proof whatsoever. But when you look at some of these scandals and you look at some of these horrific happenings, i.e. Ferguson, Missouri, etc., it almost sometimes in the back of my mind I hear a little voice say, some of these look like they're almost planned or staged to create turmoil to further more government control. How wacky do you think that is?
Well, no, I wouldn't go down the line and thinking that they're staged exactly. I think there's a number of even more. So, for instance, in the case of Michael Brown and Ferguson, the facts are very hazy. I mean, it seems very unclear from what exactly happened. And I think if this was really staged to be to cause some sort of national outcry, it's really a poor case to stage.
No, you're missing my point. Casey, just a minute. Casey, just a minute. You're missing my point. I want to make sure I'm clear on this. I'm not saying that the shooting and everything was a staged occurrence, but what I'm saying is I think when something happens like this, a lot of times I think politically people jump in and try to use it as an advantage for their own personal gain.
Right, precisely. I totally understand that, and I wasn't trying to imply that you were implying that this is some sort of conspiracy or anything. Of course, it's not. And I do think that certainly in the case of Ferguson, I think that there was a lot of media outlets being opportunistic about it. But I think that really this outrage was less caused by the media, as the big outrage that we saw in Ferguson, Missouri. I usually give people the benefits of the doubt. I think that this was a community that has been outraged by police harassment for decades and decades, and they rose up and really came out. And I think that in the beginning was really kind of more of an outrage sparked by police militarization. But unfortunately, it's really kind of taken a violent turn.
Yeah, but you will agree with me. It's easy for you to say that, Casey, without really being there and knowing the area or the environment. And I have lived back in the Midwest. I have lived back in the major cities back there, gone to college and graduated from Minneapolis, University of Minnesota, etc. And these people sometimes create their own environment of hate, their own environment of killing and shooting each other, and the police are viewed as the bad guys when they try to go in and break it up. So there's two sides to that story.
Absolutely, there certainly are two sides to that, and I do think that's something that is often ignored in the media discussion right now. As one fact that some people have pointed out is that 95% of black-on-black homicides of African American men are caused by other African American men.
That's right.
So it's not the police. This is a large problem among a community. Yep. But it's not just. There's several elements to that. So that certainly is a problem. But there's also a problem of an increasing militarized police. So I think that there's two sides of the coin, absolutely, Zeb, and one should not be ignored over the other.
Okay, real quick. Now, we've got almost out of time, but I want to just throw this at you. We're going to take this call, and then immediately after this call, I'm going to pose one other point of interest on this story to you. Caller, real fast. I'm almost out of time.
Well, to just give you a little idea of the mentality that goes on in some of these inner cities and the supposed suppression or oppression, is that a tweet from a black man talking about his brothers. He says, we shouldn't have to worry about being shot even after we robbed the store. Now, that isn't an exact quote, but you see, these guys just think it's all right to commit crime, and I realize you shouldn't get shot if you're committing crime, but if you resist arrest and you come at people, then you do run the risk, and I'll hang up.
All right, good, Randy. I appreciate that. Casey, respond to that, because I think I agree with the caller that many of the people in the Ferguson area and across the United States, they think that there should almost be an immunity for them to be punished because of their race. Respond to that.
Yeah, and I certainly think I've seen the same image of the caller was mentioning, and I think that truly points to a perverse culture where we're thinking about the shooting foremost, but also you have to take a step back and ask why was Michael Brown robbing the store in the first place?
Yeah.
Why is there such a culture, especially now in the aftermath of the shooting, where things like looting are being seen as acceptable? I think that these are really tough questions that the community in Ferguson needs to ask themselves. But at the same time, I do think that part of the statement is true that while criminals say that the police should be more careful and not be resorting to such weapons of war and situations that don't call for them. So I think it's kind of a two-front thing, kind of both sides of the coin of checking police militarization, increasing police militarization in the country, but also being very realistic about the facts of crime that are happening in inner cities like Ferguson, Missouri.
All right, now real quick, Casey, and I want a short answer on this. Promise me not more than 30 seconds. One of the real crimes of this entire story is the absolute heinous acts and verbiage from Al Sharpton. He's doing nothing but being a race baiter and stirring up the pot of trouble.
Yeah, I haven't really followed Al Sharpton's remarks at all, but I think I'm certainly not surprised at that.
I want to tell you how much I appreciate you coming on the program, and I'm sorry that we just absolutely ran out of time, and I'm going to have you back, and we're going to do a follow-up on this. But Casey Givens, God bless you, man. Thanks so much for taking your time this morning, and I'll be in touch, okay?
Thanks, Seb. This has been a great conversation.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. Casey Givens on our program this morning, and he's one of the young Americans. He's the young man that graduated from the University of California at Berkeley and really has some excellent thoughts on politics, etc., and I'm going to have him back, and we'll discuss this further. Holy cow, I am running so late. It's time for the weather, brought to you by Scarrows Meats. Michael Rogers Weather, Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. Number to call, 324-7657. If you're having trouble deciding on a Christmas present for that certain person, order a Christmas gift box from Scarrows Meats. It's delicious. Call them at 324-7657. They're selling taste one bite at a time. Here's Michael Rogers Weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers with Zip of the Ranch. The only day where we're not going to see any rain takes place today. Tonight, we have weather action all the way through the weekend. So you got a nice day today, 57 for the high. And the rain will start after midnight. No, not 11 o'clock tonight. Looks like the overnight low about 32, and showers will continue into tomorrow morning. Have yourself a great day. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. Brought to you by Scarrows Meats. 331 North Road, Jerome. Number to call, 324-7657. They're selling taste one bite at a time. Hey, real quick, I want to remind you, next Thursday, December 11th, December 11th, we're going to be over at Valley White Home and Ranch for their great big Christmas broadcast remote. It's going to be fantastic. And then, after that at 11:30, we go to Denny's for our Zeb at the Ranch, Zeb's Lunch Bunch. Holy cow, next Thursday, December 11th, is going to be a busy day. You be sure and join us. Don't forget your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, and serving is the key word right now for the best in winter driving. For all the traction tires, all the tires pinned for studs, all the tire chains, they've got it all to get you through the ice, snow, and the muck. All you have to do is just stop into any one of the 7 locations and check out the batteries. They've got the best in batteries, the best in brake service, absolutely, with professionally trained technicians. All of this and much, much more for your safe driving this winter from your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Whew, made it. I made it. We had a busy, busy morning. And we've got a great day tomorrow, too. We've got all kinds of great people coming on. United States Senator Mike Crapo, Doug Johnson. We've got Kip Giles. We got all kinds of good folks coming on the program. Don't you miss a minute of it. We'll saddle the horse at 8:06 and ride for 3 hours to 11 o'clock. And remember, the way things were are the way things ought to be. You have a great day. Enjoy your Christmas shopping and being with your family. Zeb at the Ranch. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Take care.